Hello, lovely viewers. Just a little spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the scariest moments in Doctor Who. So if you haven't seen it all, maybe skip ahead and come back and let us know how you feel. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we're usually rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who episode by episode. Today, however, we're doing something a little different. My name is Connor, and with me is my lovely co-host,
Charlotte.
Hello, Charl.
That's quite weird.
What?
Just a co-host and not like, I don't know.
The writhing ball of slime or...
Yeah.
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 So you don't know what we're doing today?
I don't know.
No.
You won't tell me.
It's more fun that way. How do you feel about the fact that you don't know what we're doing?
A bit concerned.
No, it's not worth being concerned about. Today, we're going to have a bit of a discussion piece. So what we're covering today is Doctor Who's scariest moments.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
So what I'm going to tell you as like a preamble to all of this is a little while ago, I asked Reddit I went on to the Doctor Who subreddit and the Gallifrey subreddit.
Yeah.
And I asked people, list your scariest moments.
Okay.
Okay. Now, initially, my concept for this was to make like a game and have you kind of guess what people were going to say. And I found it's quite hard to format it because it's like, how many guesses do you get? And, it's like, what if you guess one, but it's not in the right place? And it was just kind of a bit messy.
Okay.
So what I was thinking of maybe doing is just starting from the bottom of the list. I've got 20 moments. Starting at number 20, making our way down. So number 1 is the most commented moment.
Okay.
Like. So I was thinking maybe starting at 20, I'll just tell you what the moment is and we can just have a discussion about it.
Okay.
And we can go through them one by one. And then maybe when we get to the end, if we think of any ourselves that haven't been covered in the list, then we can go through our own moments that stand out.
Is this revived Who, I'm assuming?
Yes, there is no classic Who in this.
Is there any from the new era, from series 1 or 2?
No.
Okay.
So this is all from... I'm going to have a look. Do we have one from series 1? Not too sure. Anyway, this spans from series 1 to series 13.
I'm assuming we have one in series 1, because I would assume there would probably be at least one.
I think, yeah, there is one here that I've seen. But, yeah. So, yeah, do you want to just kind of jump in? I don't know how long this is going to take. This could be a really brief conversation.
Well,
but it gives us an opportunity to talk about the moments, talk about what we think makes it effective, and whatever else comes to mind, really.
Well, I'll put a little bit of preamble.
Sure.
Again, for our viewers listening, if you don't know much about me, one thing to know is I'm quite a scaredy pants.
Yeah.
I don't like horror.
Nope.
I don't like being scared.
No.
I could say generally I'm quite scared quite easily.
Yes.
But I'm also very critical of being scared. I think there's a very...
What does that mean?
I think there's a very fine line between being scared and something being silly.
Right.
I think it's well known that generally the horror industry, we've got more like stupid horrors than genuine horrors.
There are more bad horrors than there are good horrors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's say there's more bad ones than effective ones, we'll say.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think this is going to be quite interesting because...
What, see how many of these you find affecting?
Find effective, yeah. I think there's quite a few that I would... Again, because you have different audiences, don't you? A lot of the earlier ones, like the RTD era, we would have watched as a child, so we would have found more scary.
They'll stick with us more than ones we watched as teenagers.
Exactly, yeah. And then again, watching them as adults. But I've got quite a few in my head that I could probably rattle off.
Good. Well, we'll go through the main list first.
Okay.
And then we'll add our own on at the end.
Sure.
The only thing I will say is, because I know there's a little chunk of episodes, particularly in the late RTD era, that to my knowledge you've only seen once. I am curious as to how much of this you remember, in terms of there might be a moment or two here where you're like, I vaguely remember it, but maybe we'll find it difficult to talk about.
And, well, I should be okay. Once you can re-jog my memory, I can bring it back. My main issue is I don't know how many there will be, but there is a chunk of Jodie's era I am still yet to see.
I'm going to scan through the list very quickly, and there is one episode from the Chris Chibnall era, and you have seen this one.
Okay, well, that's fine then. And I assume I already know that one as well.
Yes.
As in my brain, know what that scary thing's going to be.
I don't know, maybe.
I assume so. If it's not, then humanity needs to get a grip, because the one that's in my brain is the scary one. But then
I'm not even sure what you're thinking about. That's interesting. Okay, we'll get there later.
Okay.
Right, you ready to begin the list?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, at number 20, we have the moment from The Last of the Time Lords, which is the whole reveal of what the Toclophane are, which is, do you remember after they dissect the Toclophane and there's a little face in the ball and it says the sky is made of diamonds? And Martha has that flashback to that child from Utopia.
Yes. Yeah.
That was number 20. So how do you feel about that? What's that face?
I don't remember that being scary.
I think that's one of those moments that's less scary as in like...
More creepy or unnerving.
I think
maybe.
Scary as in what it implies is scary, not necessarily the moment itself. Because like I say, it's not as if the moment itself is plodding along and it's, there's a jump scare or there's music rising or there's something horrifying on screen. It's just, I think it's the reminder that
they became that.
Not just humanity became that, but this was once a child. This was once an optimistic child, and now not only has it been turned into something horrible because it looks gross, but it's the fact that it laughs about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Because Martha says like, "Oh my God, it's you! It can't be." And she says like, "Why are you killing all these people?" And he goes, "Because it's fun," and just laughs. I think that's kind of
horrifying.
Yeah.
I
think it's the fear of like robbing someone of their innocence.
Yeah.
And I think when the Doctor works out what the Toclophane are, because he works it out just through his brain, he doesn't like pull one apart. But
I guess that guilt.
But when he works out what it is, he obviously talks to the Master as if what he's done is something horrendous, but we don't really get a sense of what it is. But when we have this moment, we realise what the Master has done.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, to say, oh, human beings have been turned into this is quite bad. And it's quite scary and it's unnerving. But the fact that we can link it back to this one child from Utopia who had this such like optimistic view
of what Utopia would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then have them resulted, like basically reduced to this gross, slimy skull in a ball. Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree. Again, I think this is probably something more to do with the whole premise of what's scary and what's horrifying.
Yeah, because again, this is something I think it's not a scary moment as intense
no,
or jumpy,
but it is horrifying to think about.
Yeah, it's concept, it's sort of what it's implying in principle.
I think it's one of those things that you're not going to be like, oh God, but it's more of that in the sense of scared, but more of that like gut punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 19. This one surprised me because I hate this episode. This is the ending of Sleep No More. I'm surprised this was mentioned as often as it was. So obviously the whole thing with Sleep No More is
You sleep in the corner of your eye.
Yeah. But do you remember the whole episode is framed as a found footage thing and you're watching it from that scientist is narrating it as he goes along.
Oh, yeah.
And then you find out that the scientist died halfway through, and then you get the reveal that the scientist that's been talking on this video log is one of these sleep monsters, and he's essentially infected anyone who watches this footage back.
Yeah.
And he sent it out to the galaxy. That is the moment here that has been put on the list. I'm surprised this is on here, because it's a very traditional kind of horror movie ending to be like, oh, and like this story's over, but look, it's out there for many more people to experience.
It's like, is it The Ring, where it's like once you've seen this, you've got a certain amount of days to like
you watch the
passing it on?
videotape, you got 7 days to live.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very kind of typical horror movie ending.
It's like fourth wall breaking kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised it's on here, because I don't find the Sandmen or whatever they're called, I don't find them to be very intimidating. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that's another thing. In principle, it's scarier because it's being sent out there and people could inadvertently watch it without knowing what it is, and then they bring in this thing into their lives. But yeah, in terms of what the actual threat would be afterwards, it's like, oh no, it's the big sleep monster.
Yeah, well, that's what you would become, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess I could see that.
Do you think that's effective?
The issue is, right, so I've got some in my head that are like burned into my brain.
Yeah.
And I forget that these moments, you could say are like, yeah, they're pretty...
Yeah.
Effective.
They're intended to be unsettling, I guess. Yeah.
But like compared to the ones I have in my thoughts right now,
Yeah.
nowhere near.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, not even close.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm certain the ones I'm thinking of. I mean, a lot of them are in Doctor Who history of being like, oh damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that they're going to be coming up. But yeah, I can definitely see where it's coming from, because it's that kind of thing of like, yeah, fourth wall. It could be, you could have it now. And especially because having sleep in the corner of your eye is such a normal thing.
Yeah. I probably have some right now.
Probably.
I feel the need to check.
We probably all do. But yeah, I like that, how it kind of links it to our world. I think sometimes the scariest thing about things is like how it has a link to our reality.
Yeah, that's what Moffat does a good job of playing on, isn't it? With,
I agree, yes.
Like the Vashta Narada and the Weeping Angels and even like the entity in Listen. Do you know what I mean? The whole thing of like not knowing if it's there or not. It's those everyday fears that people had as kids. Or
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's effective. But yeah. Wouldn't have been something I would have jumped to though.
Yeah. Okay, so number 18, we've got the moment in The Doctor's Wife. Yeah. So obviously, whilst the Doctor and the TARDIS in human form are off doing their thing, Amy and Rory are trapped in the TARDIS, if you recall.
Yeah, that is...
And there's a moment where Amy and Rory get separated, and Amy turns a corner to find Rory again, but he's now an old man, and he's got a big bushy beard, and he says, "You did it to me again, you left me again." And she's really like, she's like almost crying. She's like, "I'm so sorry." And then he starts to like run after her as if he's going to attack her, and she runs away. And then they get separated, and then she turns another corner and she finds his skeleton.
Yeah.
And on the wall, written multiple times, says like, "Hate Amy, kill Amy, die Amy." That moment.
That is horrendous. I agree with that. Completely agree with that.
This is the first one on the list where I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It's something I forget that's there.
Yeah, because again, I think when I think of the Doctor's Wife, I think of TARDIS lady.
Yeah.
And
the Doctor having that discussion on the planet.
Yeah.
I forget about the spaceship scene. But yeah, God, that is... Because especially having a partner.
Yeah.
Not only... Because she's already put him through some stuff. Amy's already put him...
Well, that's the thing.
So,
this is after the climax of Series 5, where Rory's had to wait 2,000 years.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, that moment where he's like, "You've done it to me again."
That
awful.
The guilt that comes with this, but also the kind of thing of... She left him long enough for him to completely and utterly resent her and despise her, and for him to die.
Yeah, after when 2,000 years he waited.
Yeah.
Happily.
Yeah, for that to happen.
He waited so long that, yeah, like you said, he resented her.
Yeah.
You don't know how long. Like, we don't even know if that was actually Rory.
No, I think it was more of a mind game.
But that's the thing. There's no way of knowing, really, because it's the TARDIS. I mean, there's no way of knowing if that could have actually been Rory. And then because the whole timey-wimey nature of it, then when she turns the corner and then he's like young again, just pulling him backwards and forwards through time. Do you know what I mean? It could be something like that, or this could just be House possessing the TARDIS, just kind of tricking her, either using her imagination against her or creating illusions or something. We don't really know. And even that in and of itself
I was going to say, I think that's quite effective in itself. You don't know whether...
You don't know what you can trust to be real.
Well, I think that's what's so interesting, because even after all of this, again, when Amy, thank you, sees Rory, I guess she would still have in her mind that kind of thing of like, was that real?
Yes.
Would you feel that way if I left you? Would you hate me that much?
Yeah.
And to be fair, she has already screwed him over in many ways. But I can definitely understand that, especially with, again, having a partner. Yeah. I think it's not only horrific, but also it's just like, it hits home as like a guttural thing of like, if we were in the same situation and I found you and you had written those things on the walls, I would be like, oh my God.
It would probably be hard to look at that person the same way again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, even if you just quickly snap back.
Yeah.
I think that would be something that would scar you forever.
Yeah. That's me. I don't know what's worse, like him as an older man saying, you've done it to me again. Yeah. I can't believe you did this. Or him dead and all the writing on the wall. And it's written so many times. It's not like it's just written once in big letters. It's scrawled hundreds of times over the walls.
Yeah. I think and again, we don't get much with both of them. Well, obviously the one Rory ain't there, but we don't get much time with both of them. So
They're
it's
both
just
very brief moments, aren't they?
So it's such a snippet.
Yeah.
But I think it's so effective. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
definitely.
Number 17. And this is the one, Jodie one, I think, which is arachnids in the UK.
Yes.
It's the spider coming out of the bath.
Certainly.
Was that the moment you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought if there was any others.
It's interesting you say that, because I forgot this moment even existed.
This is again, I have a terrible fear of spiders.
Yes.
Horrendous.
Yes.
And again, I would never mean any harm to them. Connor's seen me literally scream on the landing after seeing one.
Yeah, but you'll never kill one. You'll always try and scoop it, or get someone else to scoop it.
Well, that's
put
the thing.
It outside.
I refused at the time to have it sucked up in the Hoover because I thought it might cause it harm. But this thing was a giant. I mean, not compared to arachnids in this.
You're on about the one beyond the headboard?
Yeah,
it wasn't far off.
It wasn't. It was massive.
It was huge.
Yeah, if you want a horror, that exact moment, I'll share it in the podcast. Some of our friends have heard about this. We were just chilling in bed one evening. Our headboard backs up to the back of the bed, and our beloved cat came running in the bedroom and was standing on my shoulders and was looking at behind the headboard. And I was thinking, oh, you know what cats are like. They just look into space sometimes. But no, I looked behind the headboard and I'm not joking, a massive spider come running out. It
was probably including legs, is probably about the palm of my hand.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was huge. Yeah.
Obviously, I saw it. It probably saw me. Went running behind.
It probably saw you.
Went running back down the side behind the headboard, and our headboard's like a massive panel, so you can't get behind it.
Yes.
Easily.
Not without moving the whole bed.
No.
Yeah.
I then screamed, ran on the landing, saying, "There's a monster." Dad heard the screaming and came running up, thinking something horrid had happened. It did. And then Connor didn't believe me that it was a monster. Put his head to the side of the headboard to see what it was, and then screamed after seeing the thing.
It was huge.
It was huge. And then it just went darting across the room. Luckily, our cat found it and pointed it out for us.
Yes.
Again, didn't kill it. I'm glad she has, humanity, even though she's not a human. She didn't choose to kill the animal.
Yeah.
But no. The thought of going into a bathroom and something like 1,000 times the size of the spider in the bedroom crawling out of it. Hell no. My God, I struggled to watch that episode because the whole time I was like, ugh, ugh.
See, it's interesting though, because I forgot this moment existed. Obviously, I remember the episode, and it's not a great one, but I forgot this moment existed, and I had to kind of, after this was suggested as many times as it was, I had to go on to YouTube to pull the clip back up, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess.
Oh God, it was horrendous. The little creaking, and then you just see the legs come out of the hole.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God, that thing's big. And then it comes out and you're like, oh, it's massive.
I think it's because most of these moments are so psychological, and this one's not.
No.
This one's just so like, oh, there's something gross on screen.
But do you know what? I know you don't. There's a lot of things wrong with this episode. But the monster of the week isn't that thing. This is one of the things I think is so effective.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've seen it in the past anyway, and I kind of have that thing of like, I don't want any harm to come to them. However, the fact that this thing is continuously growing.
Yes.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But also the fact that that's what kills it in the end, and it's literally suffocating.
Oh, because of its size, yeah. And
the fact that it's literally like grasping to the walls and like suffocating. Also completely and utterly horrible. I literally was like almost in tears at this point. I hate spiders, but just for the thought of this poor creature scared and confused and...
It's because you're an empath.
And literally suffocating. Oh,
yeah.
It makes me sad.
The doctor allowed
now.
that to happen.
Bitch. Honestly, you might as well just put it...
The not Trump guy just wanted to shoot it. Yeah.
I don't know what's worse. I think I'd rather be shot.
Well, that's what a large thing the community talks about with that episode.
Yeah.
People say, no, you can't shoot it, that's evil, but I'm gonna let it suffocate to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a much more humane way to die.
As somebody, a little bit extra information, who has asthma, and has had quite a few asthma attacks in my time, I'd rather be shot. I haven't been shot, but maybe I'd change my mind if I had been. But my God, yeah, no, I think it's very effective. But again, I hate spiders. Yeah. But then I also think it's the horrific. If you're on about horrific things, the way it dies is also horrific, and I just feel. I like that episode, how it can make me feel complete fear for something, but also complete, just complete sadness and sympathy for something as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not long after it comes out the bath that it eats the guy's guards. Doesn't it like eat him and like drag him down into the drain?
Yeah. It just, but then it's hungry and it's growing so fast. It's not its fault.
You're supposed to be making a case for this being scary.
It's still scary.
It's scary.
But that's why, because it just, it doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
It just needs to feed.
We must feed.
We must feed.
You, if you're hungry. Yes. So, you ready for the next one? Mm-hmm. Number 16, we have Heaven Sent. We have the introduction of the veil.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, obviously, as a reminder, the Doctor's just landed or come through a teleporter. He's in like an abandoned castle. He seems to be on his own. All he's found is like a shovel with dirt on it. There's like a flower on the floor.
Yeah.
And he sees a couple TV monitors scattered around. And he looks at one of them and he can see himself being seen from a distance through a window. And then he looks through a window, and on the other side, he can just see that very sort of blurred, because it's so far away, kind of silhouette of something looking at him through a window and then walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, again, that's the instance, one of those things. First time I watched this, I was like, oh, that's horrible. And it's funny because it's like, obviously, the fate that the Doctor goes through in Heaven Sent is awful.
Yeah.
But the veil itself, once you start seeing it more and more, it's not that scary.
Yeah. I do like the fact that it's...
I like that it's got flies following it.
I like that because I like the fact that isn't there a scene where like the Doctor's trying to pull him to one end of the castle.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to dig as much as he can.
Yes.
And I like the fact that when he's in the grave or hole or whatever it is, you start seeing the flies.
Yeah. Because he inadvertently starts like swatting it away, doesn't he? And then
And he's like, oh God, it's here.
Yeah.
That, again, horrible, but really effective. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's, let's say the flies do a good job as well, but it's that initial moment, that initial thing where he looks at the screen and then he looks out the window and you just see it far away. And because it's like a castle wall as well, where obviously they're kind of like slits, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not massive, grand like windows or anything. So your sort of field of view and what you're able to see is so narrow that it's that thing of you're squinting there and you're like, even if you paused it and you sat down, you squinted at the screen, you wouldn't be able to make it out.
No. And even when it eventually gets him, like the little hand that comes out and
Very like bony and
like the way it burns him as well.
yeah,
Horrible. But yeah, the initial point where it's shown, I agree. Yeah. Definitely spooky.
Yeah, cool. Number 15, we have the God Complex, and we have the whole praise him sequence. So again, I'm not sure how well you remember the God Complex, but the entire concept is there's the Minotaur thing, isn't there? And it's playing on people's faith.
Yeah.
And it seemingly possesses people. I don't know if that's the right word. And when they start to go a bit mad, they kind of just start laughing and going a bit senile, and they keep saying praise him. And the editing goes very sort of weird. So there's that one guy who's like tied to a chair in a room with a bunch of dummies and things like that. It's been a while since I've seen this episode, I'm not going to lie. So I'm going off of like rough memory.
Is this the one with David Walliams?
It is, yes.
Yeah, when he's like the little mouse rat person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because he doesn't he have like a bad ending in there as well? Like it plays on, because it kind of turns him, doesn't it? He becomes, from what I can remember.
I can't remember what happens to his character. I'm
almost certain, because he's sort of as quite like a snivelling.
Yeah, he's a coward, isn't he? He's from a race of cowards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who, again, not like the Minions, but
right.
They're looking for. He's come from a place that they've been conquered.
He wants to be oppressed, doesn't he?
Yeah, they've been conquered, and he's thinking that these creatures are going to be the next ones. So he's kind of trying to appease it, but yeah, the way it kind of, I don't know, distorts people's vision and view on things, and then makes you, because isn't it one where like they open the door and like it's like someone's hanging or something like that.
I think what you're doing there is you're remembering something I told you, which was a fan theory, and you're remembering that as part of the episode.
Probably, yeah. Probably. Yeah, because it's the one the doctor opens,
yeah,
isn't it?
The whole thing in the God Complex is it's a hotel room and everyone's got a door, and inside the door is your greatest fear.
Yeah.
And the doctor opens the door and he says something along the lines of, of course, what else would it be?
Yeah.
And
he was running from death at this point, wasn't he?
Yeah, because he knows his 11th incarnation was going to be his final one.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a fan theory, if no one's heard it, that what he saw when he opened the door was essentially 12 bodies hanging in recognizable silhouettes, we'll say, and then his final one waiting for him. Yeah, so that's the whole thing was going to be he was scared of his own death.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's so, for a character like the Doctor, that's such a normal fear that you'd expect his biggest fear to be something really like grand or really like super deep. But to the fact of this character who's so willing to sacrifice himself or so willing to do the right thing and help people out, the thought that his greatest fear is actually just his life coming to an end is interesting.
Well, it is, because generally the Doctor doesn't notice. He's generally immortal, but he does have mortality.
Yes.
Do you mean
he can die in a way where his regeneration is not able to trigger?
Exactly.
If you were to get crushed by like a massive what do you call it? Like a hydraulic press or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't be able to regenerate.
No.
That would be it.
Yeah. Saying that though, he's had some deaths. I mean, I'm surprised some of them he's lived. Saying that though, I know
he's never had a complete and total.
He hasn't had a Captain Jack.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. But I think it's interesting because it kind of, I like the fact that it kind of brings... We see the Doctor as like this amazing alien, in many ways, not a god, but kind of like...
He's godlike. People look at him as a god.
Exactly. So the fact that he's so brought down to Earth and like humanity and the same fears that we have here, I like that. But I agree, I think it's quite scary, isn't it? The fact that having a room that has your deepest fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to open it, would you?
Would mine be the arachnid?
It'd be the spider from behind your headboard.
Oh, but it's 10 times bigger.
The monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing. That's the scariest thing, though, isn't it? Because you would probably assume that that was the case until you open the door.
Yeah, and it'd be something you hadn't even considered.
Yeah, it'd be something that's so horrendous, but you would go, well, of course, this would be my greatest fear.
Yeah.
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 Scary.
Interesting. Number 14. Mm-hmm. We have the moment from the Rebel Flesh. Well, it's not a moment per se. It's more of just a concept, but it's just the entire doppelgangers. The Flesh. I think not just the fact of having a double of yourself, but the fact that sometimes they have that weird kind of waxy look.
Yeah.
Where they look very unpleasant and the skin's like really smooth and glossy, but it's also kind of cracked. But then when need be, they can make themselves look exactly like you.
Yeah.
So it's not always easy to tell them apart. Obviously, we have that moment in the finale of the first part where we see the Doctor's got his own doppelganger. What do you think about that moment?
I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
Which maybe people won't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't find the doppelganger thing scary at all. Not even slightly.
Okay.
However, I think this may say more about me than it does about doppelgangers.
Right.
Maybe I trust myself. I think I trust myself, because if they're going to be doppelgangers, because they're kind of exactly like you, aren't they?
Yeah, other than the fact that they know their flesh. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a doppelganger of me would be kind of pretty chill with it. And I'm pretty chill with it.
Yeah.
So therefore, there would be no... I would just be like, oh, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like that look?
You'd be like Osgood, with the Zygon Osgood.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, we'll just be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have that fear like it would take over my life.
I don't think it's necessarily the fear that your ganger will take over your life. It's the thing of like, I don't know.
I don't have that at all. I don't feel
But then,
like...
if you had a doppelganger, like, what would you do? Because in their mind, like, your dad is their dad.
Yeah.
I'm their partner.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with that?
Well, share.
Share?
Share.
Would you share?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Well, it's me, isn't it?
Well, it's me.
It's just me.
Yeah, but not from your perspective.
Well, it is. It's me. It's me. Like, we're both me. And therefore, I know that they will have the same thoughts as me. I know they will think the same way as I will. I have nothing to fear because I know they will come to the same conclusion. And therefore, I will go, well, on this day, you go to work. And on this day, I'll go to work. And we'll work on a rota. And then you can spend time with Connor. And I can spend time with Connor. And we'll just share things. And then you can get shit done that you wanted to get shit done in that time.
Have you considered the fact, though, that because they're a whole other person, you wouldn't be able to take it in turns in work? They'd have to get their own job.
Well, we wouldn't have to. We'd be fine. We'd think about it. We'd have more time to think about other stuff in life and pursue other things.
No, because they are still another person. That's the whole point, because the Flesh are used purely for work purposes, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, it's not a case of, like, you have a day, they have a day. It's, like, you would use them for work, and they would not like you for it.
Well, I wouldn't. Well, that's my point. I wouldn't just use... I would say you are me, and I know I would not like to just work, so you have...
Yeah, but we're not talking about you having a ganger right here and right now. We're talking about in the context of this story. Again, this is whatever year it is, however far in the future, that's what they're doing.
But that's what I mean. I would feel... maybe because of the person I am, I would feel guilt about that, and I would go, look, I know you don't want to do this because you're me, so we'll just take it in turns, okay? And you'll have some good days, and I'll have some good days, and I'll have some bad days, and you'll have some bad days. I wouldn't just be like, you work, I have fun, goodbye. Like, I would be like, it's only fair. You're me. You've been brought into this world. You have no other option.
Okay.
So I don't fear this.
You don't find any fear factor in this at all?
If anything, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board.
What about when... What's her name? Is it like Jenny or something? I can't remember. The one girl who maybe starts evolving a bit past beyond waxy face and turns into a weird monster thing and starts crawling across the walls. What about that moment?
I mean, that's a bit weird, but... Again,
can't wait for the giant scorpion with Charlotte's face to start crawling along the walls.
Yeah, but I think that's mainly because that's due. They've mutated due to necessity, because they're just being used. But if my doppelganger was looked after, she wouldn't need to do that. She'd be all right. So we'd be fine. She wouldn't feel like all she is just flesh, and she's just being. She's in that mill of like, well, if something happens to her, she's just remade. She's like, well, I've got a cushy life. I don't need to mutate. And I'd be like, well, same.
Okay.
No.
You don't find this scary at all?
No. What about you? Let's ask you. What do you feel? I feel like you may differ with that opinion.
I don't necessarily... It's hard to say, because you don't know how you're going to get on with your doppelganger until it happens. It's easy to say, oh, we get on because we're the same, but you don't know. Soon as my doppelganger wants to start not sharing my life, but having my life, do you know what I mean? It's going to be a bit like, I don't know, it's hard to say. I always found the way that they look with their kind of like waxy face to be a bit unnerving. Kind
of, but I think it's quite cool, isn't it?
I mean, it's a cool effect, but like, if I saw it, I'd be like, ugh.
At least you could differentiate.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Because sometimes when they want to, they can just look exactly like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't find it scary as such. I understand it's maybe it's philosophical, ideas that could be a bit unnerving, but I don't find it to be scary in episode. Yeah.
That's the thing. I feel like in that sense, the only reason you should fear your doppelganger is if you fear they're going to take over your life. Because if you do, they're going to feel the same way and know that you're going to think of getting rid of them, and they'll think that way and try and get rid of you. That's the only way you should be scared of them, is if you have that thought process. But if you don't, and they're just going to be just like you and get on with you.
I guess.
The only way that I'm not okay with things like that is like when something takes your form, doesn't have the same thoughts as you, but tries to take over your life. That's different.
I do wonder how much of them knowing that they're flesh would change their personality. Because again, if you had a clone that thought it was you and it remembers being born, even if it wasn't, that's a bit different. But because it knows it's not real. But
then again, you could argue that if, again, this is just psychology, but you could argue if it's known that, but known that even though it is different and it was born for a purpose, but yet has been accepted and has been shown love, it would have no need. If anything, it may feel more appreciative of life.
But then there is also that thing of just because you're nice to your doppelganger doesn't mean everyone would be.
Maybe people wouldn't have to know.
But people would know.
You probably would know.
As soon as they start turning into a weird waxy thing, people would know.
That's true. But still, I mean, you probably know, because if there was two of us, I mean, how would you take that? How would you take coming home and there's just two of us in the kitchen just having a chat?
Maybe two of you could actually make a meal. I'm sorry. You're not good at sharing the kitchen.
Yeah, well, guess what? Me and my doppelganger aren't sharing food with you.
Right. Do you want the next one?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay. Number 13. A moment from Turn Left.
Oh, God. My God, that is horrendous. I know exact point you're on about.
We have the it's happening again moment.
Oh, my God. The first time I watched that again, wasn't that long ago, literally made me feel physically sick. Honestly, I was like, Jesus. So much so, I was really surprised it was aired as Doctor Who and not Torchwood.
Okay, right. As a recap for anyone that can't remember, obviously, Turn Left is set mostly in a kind of alternate reality where Donna never met the Doctor. The Doctor died, and he never saved half the people that he ended up saving in the real universe.
Yeah.
So at this point, the Titanic from Voyage of the Damned crashed into Buckingham Palace, caused a massive radiation leak across London. Donna and her family moved to Leeds. And they were obviously not just that family, but everyone that lived in London, basically. Everyone's been shipped off like refugees to other places, and there's people house sharing.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, because Donna's mum says about the amount of like people she'd spoken to, half of London, or majority of London, was also wiped out by
Yeah, because there's a moment where Donna's mum says, like, remember so-and-so, the woman who worked down the shop? And Donna's like, yeah. And she's like, she'll be dead. I think of a new one each day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
it's such a good episode, but God, it's so dark.
That in itself is like a sad moment, but it's this moment for me where the nobles are sharing a house with a couple other families, including this Italian family.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where Donna comes back. I think she's just spoken to Rose, and she's on her way back to the house, and she sees a bunch of soldiers in the truck, essentially shipping off the family, loading them into the back, and they say they go into a work camp, I think they call it, and this is when Wilf says it's happening again. That's what they called them before.
Fucking hell.
That's awful.
That is literally just completely, and we get a bit of time with them as well, and you can see that this family
so lovely.
Actually brings joy to the nobles, almost to Donna's mum, because she's like in complete despair at this point.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because when they hate them at first, don't they? Because they're in the middle of the night, like singing like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
I say singing, just chanting that. I see a little silhouette of and Donna's like, will you just shut up?
Yeah.
But then, like, as the weeks go by, Wilf and Sylvia kind of like open up to it, and they all get on really well. And so even at this moment, while this family are being shipped off, the father tries to comfort Donna, because Donna's like, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And she's like trying to get the soldiers to stop, and this father's like telling her like, "No, stay there." And he's just so optimistic, and he's so like, he's under the impression like, oh, I'm just gonna go work, it's fine. And then when he gets into the back of the truck, you see his smile just drop, and then he holds his family as the truck drives away. And it's one of those things where, again, the show's kind of at its scariest when it handles very real
like we were
situations.
saying before. And that's what I mean.
When you compare this to the spider coming out of the bath, they're two very different.
That's in the fear of it's a spider, but I know it's very cliche, but the scariest shit is the stuff humanity has done.
Yeah.
And this is it. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that it's so horrible, because like obviously Wilf wouldn't have been there. He probably would have been a child at this point, but the fact that he would have known about this.
Yeah.
And maybe even witnessed it, you don't know. I mean, unlikely. I would assume he would have been brought up in the UK. But, do you know what I mean? The fact that, it's so, burned in his brain, the fact that he recognises this moment instantly and knows exactly what's going to happen to this family that they obviously care so much about.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a good episode Turn Left
It's
is.
a brilliant episode, but my God, watch it in a good mood. Well, don't watch it in a mood.
Watch it in a good mood, it'll bring you down. Watch it in a bad mood, it'll tip you over the edge.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
Watch something happy afterwards.
Yeah. Right, number 12. We've got a moment from Flesh and Stone.
Yeah.
And it's the whole Angel Bob sequence. So...
I know the one.
Yes.
Oh, God.
So obviously... With Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, there are soldiers led by Father Octavian. Obviously, there are weeping angels in the area. And Bob is one of the soldiers that's been separated from the main group, and he's talking to the Doctor over like a communicator. And the Doctor's giving him advice on how to stay safe from the angels. And he basically tells the Doctor over the communicator, but he's already killed me, sir. He says, I'm already dead. And the Doctor's like, wait, what? And this is when we work out that the angel has killed Bob and is talking to the Doctor through the communicator, through Bob, through the communicator, and it's literally using his voice.
I mean,
yeah, and you have that moment. Yeah, I'm already dead.
I mean, again, I think Moffat does this stuff so well.
Yeah,
we see it, something similar but not exactly the same in Silence in the Library
I
as
know.
well.
Yeah, with the data ghosts,
which I know is going to come up because that whole, but it's so effective, that kind of thing of, because you just hear people and you just assume of course you assume they're alive because they're talking.
Yes.
But having that thing of them finding out they're not, and something is using them, or something's keeping their voice going.
Yeah. It's like being puppeted almost.
Yeah. And it literally is like being puppeted, and it's like it's something that's completely disrespectful.
Yeah.
But obviously, in both cases,
it's not just killed you. The thing is, it's like, again, it's the fact that we know that what weeping angels do isn't actually kill you. It's touch you, which displaces you back in time, and they feed off of the energy that you would have lived with.
Yeah.
But that's not what this angel did. This angel broke his neck.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't powerful enough to actually use its powers to send him back. So it killed him in a way where it doesn't even have anything to gain.
Yeah.
It's, like you said, complete disrespect, because it's then using his voice.
Yeah.
And initially kind of plays as him and pretends to be him, and then in the end just starts taunting and threatening the Doctor using his voice. And you have this, because Bob was quite a young soldier, so he's got this young kind of voice, and then he starts doing this kind of evil, maniacal, cackling laugh that's just horrible. But that initial moment, that kind of like mic drop, that twist reveal of I'm already dead.
Yeah, that is horrible.
Is horrible. Yeah. So that's number 12.
Mm-hmm.
Number 11, we have the first appearance of the clockwork robots in The Girl in the Fireplace. So this is the moment where the Doctor has met Renette as a child, and he has that realization of, if the only clock in the room is broken, then what's that?
Yeah.
And you hear this ticking noise, and he has this, he's kind of breaking it down, and he says, the resonance is too big to be a clock, about 6 foot, the size of a man. And he tells Renette to stay on the bed, don't look over the edge. And he looks under, and he sees the clockwork robot under the bed. This moment?
Well, if you haven't already listened to the episode where we covered this...
We covered The Girl in the Fireplace, yeah.
Go listen. But... as you would probably, if you have already listened to it, you would know, this, again, after watching it for probably the third time, scared the shit out of me in a Costa.
Yes.
So I think, I don't know whether it's the kind of, the spike in music a little bit, and kind of like
when he swipes at the Doctor, there's like a jump scare sting.
Yeah.
Which is effective, I will say. But it's also, like I say, that whole bit leading up to it, it's the typical Moffat thing of, if the clock's broken, then what's that?
Yeah.
And then the Doctor breaking it down, it's the size of a man.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, do you know what I mean? You could just say human size.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as scary. It's the fact that he says the size of a man. I don't know why, but that phrasing specifically I find more scary than if he were to just say human size.
I guess because human size is generally... It's quite varied, isn't it? Like it could be a child.
I tell you what I think it is. I think it's the idea of a man standing unknown in a little girl's bedroom.
I mean, yes. Also,
I think just that implication.
Yeah. Well,
is very off-putting and very, because kids always have that fear of something under the bed, and obviously the idea of what if that actually is something under the bed is scary. But then it's the thing of, what if the thing under the bed is actually a man? So it's not a monster or anything. It's actually something very real, which amps it up again.
Yeah.
And then when you say it's been there a while and it's been hiding by breaking the clock, it just adds all these layers and all these different dimensions to it.
I agree.
Which I think makes it really spooky and really like unsettling as a moment of tension to build up. And then you're right, when he swipes, because he's got like a blade in his arm, doesn't he, and he swipes at the Doctor, and you get that like jump scare sting, and the Doctor like jumps back, and then when he looks back under the bed, he's not under there anymore, you just see the shoes.
Yeah. Oh,
because he's now standing up on the other side.
Yeah. It's so horrible.
Yeah, and it's the fact that when you see them, like, obviously later on in the episode we see what the actual head looks like with the clockwork stuff running around, but the fact those like period piece kind of masks and wigs they wear are very, well, I don't know, there's just something about them as well that's kind of like uncanny. I don't like it.
See, this is what I love, because not the masks are so creepy, but again, as the Doctor mentions, when you take off the masks, these things are so beautiful.
Yes.
That
you appreciate the craftsmanship when you actually see all the cogs turning and all the gears.
That's what I love. I love the fact that often we see things of like, you know, they've got a disguise, but underneath the disguise they're even worse. And it's like, it's not. These things are they're just beautiful mechanical creatures.
Yeah.
That have just they haven't even tried to be scary. They've just tried to fit in to look like everybody else. And that's kind of scary, but they didn't mean it to be. They just wanted to kind of...
I also think the fact that because they're robotic, they move in a very jerky way. So there's that moment, isn't there, where, like, it's looking at the Doctor, and then when Brunette says something, it turns its head to Brunette, but it doesn't turn in a fluid motion. It kind of cocks its head to the side.
Yeah. And
it's a way that obviously makes sense for a machine, but it's so...
clunky.
Unelegant, so clunky and inhuman that makes it more unsettling.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that, like, you're right, it's beautiful when you actually look at the machinery and how it works, but without the context of that and just seeing its movement, like if you saw that walking down an alley in silhouette, you'd be terrified. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because I feel, and that's what I like about it, I feel like if we had just had the clockwork creature standing on the other side of the bed, it wouldn't have been as scary.
Yeah.
I think you would have been like, oh, what's that? But then you kind of would have been more curious than alarmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also that thing of how fast it moved, how fast it went from under the bed to standing up on the other side. It's very, very creepy.
Yeah.
So going from one Stephen Moffat script to another. Well, actually, I guess we got quite a few in a row that are Moffat penned.
I had noted this, and I do have something to say at the end, but carry on.
So number 10, cracking our top 10, we have The Impossible Astronaut, we have Meeting the Silence. So the very first time we see the silence, I believe, is when Amy sees one in the distance.
Yeah.
And she kind of goes like, what's that? And then she like looks at someone else. I can't remember if it's Rory or the Doctor or something. And then when she looks at them, she obviously just goes, she just forgets immediately. Yeah. And then the first time we meet them properly is, I think it's in the bathroom in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
And obviously there's that whole thing of, obviously the whole gimmick of the silence is once you stop looking at them, you forget they exist.
Yeah.
And this leads into the whole thing with Day of the Moon, where they start writing tally marks on their arms.
That is the scariest part of it, I think.
You find that scarier than their introduction?
Well, I think it's is it where Amy's in an attic, I think?
Yeah, I know the bit you're on about, yeah.
And
where she like looks out of a window and then she sees her reflection. I think is there like lightning outside or something, and she sees a reflection and she's got like tens of tally marks on her face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she looks down and they're all the way up her arm.
Yeah. Because they say take a mark every time you see one, and you're like, oh my god, like how many has she seen?
You just look down and then you realise you went from having none on your hand to having 30 on your hand.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, what?
Well, that's the thing, because she obviously remembers that at this point that there is something that she needs to take a tally for.
She's aware that there are creatures that she can only remember when looking at them because they've had the concept explained.
Yeah.
But obviously they don't know what they look like. They don't know how many there are. They don't know where they are.
No.
They just know that there's some around and they've been seen that many times.
Yeah. That is horrible.
Yes.
That is horrifying, because I know they often say the most horrific things are the things that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
It's the unknown.
Because they are quite horrible looking anyway.
But they're not that bad, are they? They're kind of like
not
Ood-esque.
They're not monstrous, but yeah, the fact that they've got like, they kind of look like typical aliens. Your little round-headed green aliens, but they're grey. And I think the fact that they wear suits is weird.
Yeah.
The fact that they're like 7 foot tall and they wear suits.
I actually find that quite funny. Like, I'm like, oh, look at him, he's so smartly dressed.
I think it's like the Slender Man effect, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Slender Man being like tall, pale man with no face. Okay, spooky. But it's the fact he's wearing a suit adds something to it. Like, if he was naked.
I think it's that thing of like trying to fit in.
But also, something like that never would fit in. So it does make you think, what's the point?
Yeah.
And it kind of adds this level of mysticism to it.
It's that kind of not like seeing something that's so normalised in the world. Lots of people wear suits, but being like something so weird wearing a suit. It's like...
It does make you wonder, did they take suits from us? Or, because they're implied to have been around for a long time, do you reckon they maybe...
They influenced
suits to be a thing?
That would be so cool. The thought that people at like the people who created suits had seen them but forgotten they'd seen them.
But the idea of the suit just stuck around.
Oh, please, can we have that? Can that be a thing, please? I'd love that.
Yeah. But yeah, I know what you mean. That moment in the attic is horrible as well.
You'd be petrified, wouldn't you? Because again, especially because you don't know what they look like and you don't know what they can do, but all you know now by looking at your body is how many they are.
Let's combine your fears. Imagine that's real.
Yeah. And is how many spiders?
But they look like spiders.
Fuck that. I think I'd literally projectile vomit.
So you know there are spiders around that you'll forget as soon as you look at them, and you look down and you see like 30 marks on your hand.
No. Just no.
Yeah.
I'd be sick.
But there's also that moment, isn't there, where don't they like implement a chip into someone's hand where they can leave like voice memos? There's like a flashing light in their wrist, and they put it into, I can't remember who it is. It's been a while since I've seen this series, but they put it into someone's hand, and they say, hey, if you see something, then you can basically press your palm, hit record, and then save a message, and then immediately like 5 seconds later, there's a message on there.
Yeah.
That's like very, like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's something about, again, I think, you know how you talked about, being invasive with Angel Bob and it being disrespectful. There's something about that of invasive about lost time you can't account for.
Yeah, lost memory.
It's not just the fact that you don't know what they look like. It's the fact that if you spend a significant amount of time looking at them, you don't just forget them, you forget everything that happened in that moment.
Time, yeah.
So
I think it's bringing you round to, it dazes you.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know where I am. And again, the fact that all I know is I'm covered in these marks and that there's lots of these creatures. And I think it's also the fact that they could pop out at any time. So you can't control when you will lose that memory.
Yeah.
You could see them at any point.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
It's yeah.
Yeah. Real creepy.
The next moment, I'm surprised, is not higher on the list. And this is Pain from World Enough and Time.
This is, I'd probably say I've got a top 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is one.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So for anyone who needs a reminder.
I do wonder whether this wasn't as high because people didn't watch it as much.
You mean because people didn't watch Capaldi's era as much? Or?
Yeah. But I think because...
That does track, actually, because if I look at the top 5, they're all from Russell's first era.
Yeah.
So
I do
that
wonder if that's the case. Because this, again, I remember watching this with Connor for the first time because he was like, you need to watch Capaldi's era. And I'm so glad you made me because I love it.
Yes.
The first time we watched this, I literally turned to Connor and I went, oh my God.
Yeah, this is horrible.
So,
for anyone that needs a reminder, Bill, the companion, is alone in a hospital, and there are multiple patients, we'll say, lying in bed, sat down in chairs, kind of hooked up to IV bags, and one of them is hitting a button. Well, initially, all we hear is pain, 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 and you think someone's talking, and as Bill gets closer, she realizes they're not actually talking, they're hitting a button which is making the sound. So we know now at this point that these people can't speak,
yeah,
and they have to use these buttons to essentially call for like a nurse or whatever. And then we after however many times of hitting the pain button, a nurse comes over, fiddles with the IV and the machine and whatever, and then walks off, and then the voice stops. But as Bill gets closer, she has a look and she realizes what the nurse has done is not necessarily given an anesthetic or an antidote or done anything to comfort the patient. They've just turned the volume down.
Oh, God.
So Bill sees like a dial, and as she turns it back up, you can hear increasingly louder the pain, 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 and yeah, this just goes on for ages. This moment is probably what... Yeah, I know what you mean. If I were to make my own list, this probably would be top 3 as well.
Yeah.
This is, horrible.
This is horrible. Especially, again, the fact that what happens to Bill...
Yes.
Seeing this, and then what happens to Bill, it's like, oh my God. And the fact that how the people can be so cruel, they know that all they're doing is just turning the dial. And,
they don't care.
And I hate the fact that even when they turn it down, they're still tapping.
Yeah. Yeah, the tapping never stops.
The tapping never stops. It's so horrible.
I think it's the fact as well that this is revealed later on to be a Cyberman story, and Cybermen had stopped being scary by this point.
Yeah.
And this story did a great job of actually making them out to be the horrifying things that they are. I think, even though I think in concept the Cybermen are scary in the revived series, like in Rise of Cybermen Age of Steel, in concept they're scary. But I think the design of them robbed something. Because the Lumic Cybermen appear a lot more robotic.
Yeah.
They look like big, hunking pieces of metal. We know there's a human brain inside, but do you know what I mean? They walk around going, tsh, 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 and they like march, and they're very stiff and clunky. They look like robots. Where obviously World Enough and Time brings back the Mondasian Cybermen from the 10th planet.
Yeah.
And they just look like people in bandages. People in bandages with kind of like a metal kind of helmet on. And I think that's a lot more scary.
Well, this is what I could be completely wrong, but I feel like it's either going to be two ways for me. Either the big like clunking Lumen Cybermen are scary because they're so big, aren't they? And they seem so powerful. I feel like that would be quite scary. And probably for children...
It's more physically imposing.
Yeah, I feel like for children that would probably be more scary. But I think for adults, knowing that these things are so human...
Yeah.
I think that's why it's probably worse.
I think it's the thing, like I said, the Lumic Cybermen appear more like human brains that have been put into a metal casing.
Yeah.
Where the Mondasian Cybermen seem more like they still actually have organic components, but have just been added to and taken away from and tweaked in a way that they're not human anymore. And there's something about that's awful.
Well, that's the thing. They're not completely human, but they still are human.
Yeah.
There's still something
they're
very
not
tangible.
just a brain in a metallic suit.
Yeah. And, oh, God, it's just so horrible.
Yeah. But this moment specifically where Bill is sneaking around, it's a really tense scene as well. Not only is the moment like gut-wrenching where you're like, oh, this person's suffering so much, but it's scary. Do you know what I mean? When the nurse starts coming in and Bill has to hide behind the curtain and take cover, it's scary because you don't know what the stakes are yet. You don't know what's going to, if she gets caught, what's going to happen.
And I think it's so interesting because, again, we recently covered the, what's it called? The Cybermen, first Cybermen part in series 2.
Rise of the Cybermen.
Thank you.
Yes.
And they mention in that about the reason that they've killed the pain receptors in the Cybermen is because it's too painful.
Yeah.
But it's never really played upon. And this, I think you could kind of you're like, oh, it's painful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you would still think, oh, I'd rather still have that and have the thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
After watching this, you would go, yeah, I would go for that as well. I think I'd rather have no pain than deal with that.
Makes you wish you'd rather be a Lumic Cyberman than a Mondasian Cyberman. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good moment.
Horrible.
On to our next Stephen Moffat story. We have silence in the library, but not the moment you'd be thinking. It's not the...
It's got to be either one or two. It was one of two.
Go on, make your guess.
It's either Miss Evangelista.
It's not.
Or I would assume it's the point where, I can't remember his name, where he's going, who turned out the lights?
That's the one.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those.
Hey, who turned out the lights? Yes. So obviously, as a refresher... The whole thing with science in the library is the Vashta Narada. They are things that live in the shadows. They're tiny. They're like, you know, when you see like air particles in sunlight, like they're like that small, like microscopic, and they live in the shadows and they can devour flesh in like seconds. And yeah, there's the moment where is it one of the Daves? Because there's a Dave and there's a other Dave and proper Dave, as they call them. I think it's one of them where the Doctor notices that they have two shadows. So he tells them to stay still, and he uses the sonic screwdriver to like tint the glass in his helmet, hoping that they might not know anyone's inside and maybe it'll buy him time.
Yeah.
And then after some time, the second shadow disappears, and they think that he might be okay. And he starts talking, and he says, "Hey, who turns out the lights?" And everyone's like, "Hey, what's going on?" But then eventually, the face leans forward, and it's just a skull in there.
Yeah.
And we realize Dave's been gone a while, and yeah, this is another one of those moments where it's like he's been talking. He says, "Hey, who turned out the lights?" And then when he says it the second time, everyone's like, "Huh?" And then the third time, and then they realize it's the data ghosts just repeating the
itself.
information. Yeah, and then the suit starts walking seemingly by itself, but it's obviously like the Vashta Narada kind of piloting it.
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah, I feel like we're developing a pattern now.
Yeah.
Awful, horrible, disgusting.
Yeah, again, it's
that trick Moffat loves doing of having something happen seemingly innocuous, and then it happens again, and then you're like, wait.
It's diverting your expectations. He does so well. And I know we've said he's did the same thing in, again, I'm sure it'll come up with Where's My Mummy? Again, this is the same thing. Again, what we spoke about earlier. It's that kind of thing of you expecting normality, but it's anything but. And the point when you realise something's wrong. Again, it's the same with the clock. You can see the clock is broken, and you can hear the ticking.
You hear the ticking throughout the whole scene,
and
it's fine. It's only when the Doctor turns around and draws attention to the fact that the clock is broken, that you realise something's off.
And I love the fact that he does that. I think it's brilliant. I know people could argue it's maybe overplayed a little bit, but I think when he does it, they're quite varied. Do you know what I mean? They're not the same trick every time.
It's the same trope, but it's
done differently.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think it's so good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
No, I know what you mean. It could, if it wasn't this moment, it would be the data ghost with Miss Evangelista.
Yeah.
Saying that though, I know a lot of people used to be freaked out by, you know, when Donna's in a little dream world and Miss Evangelista's there in like the black kind of hooded veil.
Yeah.
And then there's that bit where Donna like pulls it back and then her face is all like twisted, and it's like the effect is not very good, but apparently that scarred quite a lot of people.
Oh.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I was thinking of the Miss Evangelista bit going like ice cream, like that bit. Yeah, I guess that scene kind of establishes what the
it sets it up, doesn't it, for the payoff later on.
Yeah. It establishes like the ghosting as a concept, so this bit actually makes sense.
I think it's also we have Donna there at the time, so she comforts Miss Evangelista, and she's she's being that, even though it's more sad at that point.
Miss Evangelista calls Donna the nice one.
Yeah.
Where's the nice lady?
That's it. And it's more like, oh, that's horrible, but again, whereas the other one, it's like nobody's there to kind of comfort him. It just happens.
It happened. No one even noticed.
Nobody even noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it helps as well that this moment when it starts chasing them and it's repeating, "Hey, who turned out the lights?" This is obviously right at the end of the first episode in that two-parter. So at the same time, you've got the whole the weird spoon thing turning around with Donna's face on it.
Yeah.
So you have the Donna Noble has left the library. Donna Noble has been saved. And then on the other side, you got the "Hey, who turned out the lights?" And the two things are just repeating over and over again. I think this building up to be the big climax of episode 1 kind of builds that fear factor, because they obviously want to ramp the stakes up for part 2 to have to be able to resolve.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Cool, good one.
Again, that's also in my top 3.
Yeah. And now we have, it's not our last Moffat story on the list, but this is the last Moffat story before the street gets broken. We have Listen, and we have the moment where the bed sinks. So,
Oh, yeah.
as a refresher, Clara is in young Danny Pink's bedroom at this point, and he's scared that there's something under the bed. And she's comforting him and she's calming him down, and she actually pulls him under the bed, and they're lying under the bed together. And she says, "See, look, nothing down here, and we're all fine." And then at that point, the bed that's obviously inches above the faces, you just see go and just sink down as if something's just sat on the bed. And then you have the moment a little later on where they're looking out the window, and they turn around, and you can just see there's something on the bed underneath a blanket.
Yeah.
And we don't know what it is, but it's there. And the doctor says, "Don't look at it." And they the doctor says, "Whatever you are, I'm commanding you to leave the room, or we promise we won't look if you just leave in peace."
Yeah.
And you see something get up, still covered in the blanket, just walk out of frame and through the door. And that's the moment we're looking at here.
Yeah.
So it's that initial sink for me. It's when they're under the bed and she's like, "Yeah, nothing down here." And then you see, whoop, and the mattress just dips. And then Clara's smile just disappears.
Yeah.
Just instantly.
Again, I know, in the thing of repeating myself, that thing of, you assume when they go, "Oh, there's going to be nothing under the bed," you think, "Oh, they're going to look and something's going to be under
the
it."
bed.
So when they get under
it's that
there,
role reversal of something being on the bed.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of, do you mean you're like, "Oh, this is in a moment of being scared. Okay, nothing's going to happen. They're fine." She's just reassuring them.
Yeah.
Or reassuring Danny. And then it's like, "Oh, God, there is something on the bed."
It's a rug pull, isn't it? Because it's the thing of as well, how did it get there?
Yeah.
Was it under the bed in the first place and
Exactly.
moved when they went under? Or was it in the room somewhere else? If so, where was it? Because when it sinks on the bed, the door doesn't open, we don't hear a window open, so it had to have been there before. And it's the fact that even by the end of the episode, we never learnt what it was.
No. Well,
Because
I think
Clara theorizes it's one of Danny's like friends or one of the other kids in the home maybe playing a prank.
yeah.
And it's possible. But
is
at the same
possible.
time, it's like the fact that no word is ever spoken. The doctor says, "If you leave now, we promise we won't look, but just leave in peace." And you see it get up. And that's the thing, you think when it sinks on the bed, my initial thought was maybe this thing teleports or something. But the fact that we actually see it get up and then walk to the door,
Yeah.
and it's small, whatever it is, it's about the size of a child, but we never see anything.
Well,
It doesn't leave anything behind. There's no footprints, there's no air, there's nothing.
Again, what I like about this episode is the fact that the doctor mentions that this creature could possibly be something that has its whole existence is perfecting hiding.
Yes, it's been
Completely unnoticed.
It's evolved to be the perfect what do you call it?
Prey, I guess?
Ideally
Well.
not prey, isn't it? That's the thing. So you obviously got predators and prey, and some of them evolved to have like camouflage and disguising techniques and things like that. But this thing has evolved to be essentially invisible,
Yeah.
undetectable by anything.
Yeah.
And we don't even know if this exists or if this is just a doctor going mad having a theory.
Yeah.
And we never learn by the end of the episode. But all we know for sure is something was in that room.
But that's what I think is so brilliant, because you could argue the fact that Clara says that it was probably one of the children, maybe that is the thing hiding.
What do you mean, posing as a child?
Yeah, it's pretending to be a child to make you think that it's a child, to make you think that there's actually nothing in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
And I think that's what's so brilliant about it, because when you think of something perfecting hiding, it could be anything. Again, you say about things hidden in plain sight. It might be.
Yeah.
And if you've perfected hiding, you could be completely hidden in plain sight. And maybe it's using that and its abilities to do that.
Yeah. No, I like it.
Yeah, maybe the fact that maybe it does have the ability to teleport, but maybe it's choosing to walk out the room to make you think that, well, of course it's a child. It's just let itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, next, number 6, stepping away from Stephen Moffat for a moment, we have Night Terrors, and we have Amy turns into a doll. I'm surprised. I know this never bothered me, but I know this one has affected some people. I'm surprised it's as high on the list as it is. I'm surprised this was mentioned by as many people as it was. But as a refresher, Night Terrors basically takes place mostly inside a dollhouse owned by a child who is actually an alien, and anything that they're scared of, they put away in the closet.
Yeah.
But he kind of has the power to make them real.
Yeah.
So Amy and Rory are in this dollhouse, and they're being chased by these dolls that are running around after them. The dolls don't look that scary, but it's the fact
They're quite
that
creepy, but not scary, aren't they?
it's the fact that one eventually touches Amy, and we see her slowly turn into one, and we see her hair kind of turn into like straw almost.
It's like a yarn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she slowly gets turned into this doll, and then Rory obviously has this realization of, oh, my wife
Yeah. Has become
a thing.
a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one that I've always been surprised that people have found as scary as they do. I'm definitely surprised it's higher than moments like World Enough in Time.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think?
I agree with you. I think it definitely has.
I could see this maybe like scaring a child, but
Yeah.
like I don't watch this now and think that's scary.
But again, you don't know who the people who watch this. They may have watched it for the first time as a child, or I don't know. Maybe maybe more people would have seen this
Yeah.
than other things, so maybe that's why it would have been higher.
There's a moment like this a little later on in the list that I feel is basically the same concept but done way more effectively. So if you don't have anything else to say about this, do you want to just move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't have much else to add if I'm honest, because
No.
I don't find it scary.
I feel like I should definitely rewatch the episode though, because I can kind of remember that happening, but I think it's more of like I think I was more like, oh no, does this mean the end of Amy?
Right.
Not like, oh, that's
No.
a horrible way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 5, we have The Waters of Mars, and we have Andy infecting Tarak.
Oh, that's horrible.
So obviously the whole thing with The Waters of Mars is the threat of the episode is called the Flood, and we don't know exactly what it is. We assume it's maybe like a microscopic being or something that's infected the water.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where one drop of water is enough to infect you, and once infected, you kind of start dripping water everywhere. Your mouth goes all cracked, and your skin goes all horrible and chalky. This moment specifically of Andy infecting Tarak is when they go to the, I can't remember what you call it, the area where they like grow in the vegetables and
Yeah.
stuff. And they look down like not an alley, what do you call it? Like a lane, a row,
Yeah.
where they're growing the vegetables. And you just see at a distance, Tarak is on his knees, and Andy's sort of standing over him with his hand held out to his head, obviously water like pouring down his arm. And you see Tarak just kind of bouncing. He's sat on his knees, but he's just like shaking uncontrollably as the water's doing whatever it's doing to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
The concept of the flood in general is quite scary, I think. It's that thing of just one drop of water is all it takes to infect you, because water is arguably the most powerful thing on Earth.
Oh, God, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even when you think of things like diamond that are like, you know, super, super hard, like harder than rock and steel and whatever, water will penetrate it easily. There's no escaping from water, which I think finds it.
And the fact we need water.
Yeah,
as well.
it's unavoidable. Yeah, I think it's this moment. Again, it's the fact that water is what it is anyway. It's the fact that the flood look quite scary with like the cracked mouth and everything. That it doesn't look like a pleasant way to go. But yeah, this moment specifically with Tarak kind of shaking on the floor. Again, I think it's that thing of just no choice in the matter. There was no getting away from it. He's on his knees, and whatever is happening is just clearly so either uncomfortable or painful that even though he's on his knees and he hasn't got the strength to get up and run, he's still just shaking about.
Yeah.
And he can't get away. It's not like he's just there like going, and then that's it. He's literally bouncing around. Yeah, that to me is how uncomfortable he looks whilst being able to run away that sticks with me.
Yeah. Do you know what I think? I could be wrong. Most of my horror movie knowledge is from clips because I don't watch them.
Yes.
But I feel like this has a similar vibe to, is it 28 Days Later, where I can't remember which movie it is, where they're running somewhere and is it Brendan Gleeson and he looks up and the blood drops into
28
his
days
eye?
later. Yeah.
28 Days Later, yeah.
Yeah. The infected blood drops from, I think a crow is eating like a corpse or something, and a drop of blood falls and lands in his eye.
Yeah, and he's like, run. I think it's a similar vibe to that. It's something that, do you mean, we are 70% water.
Yes.
So it's so part of us.
Yeah.
To think that
we'll never be able to isolate ourselves from it completely.
No.
And one drop is enough to get whatever's in that droplet to just
completely take over us.
Yes.
I think it has similar vibes to that, especially because, like you said, water's so unavoidable. You look at things of like trying to waterproof things, trying to make sure, water doesn't like go through cracks or seals.
Yeah.
So when it has the power and kind of the sentience to move however it wants, it seems so unstoppable.
It's that thing now, like, for anyone, well, I doubt anyone knows because I don't think I've brought it up on the pod, but I work in property, and it's one of those things, like, you can have a new property fully refurbished, everything nice and sealed, and it's perfect, and there's absolutely nothing stopping within a year or two's time a leak coming through a shower tray or... you could have a leak coming through your ceiling that's coming from like a flat above or something like that. And it's not necessarily because a job was done badly or the materials weren't good. It's just water will eventually get through. Yeah. And you have to keep on top of it.
Yeah.
And you have to keep sealing. And obviously you can't leave it because if you leave it, then things like wood will get rotten. And, it's just, it will always get to where it wants to go.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's the stakes of this episode because obviously they're on Mars. There's not a lot of water on Mars, but the water they have found is tainted.
Yeah.
And the whole thing of the flood of trying to get to Earth.
Yeah.
Because Earth is 70% water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to put, not that it's necessarily scary, but if we're on about like horrific and gut wrenching, I'd like to put the end of that episode also as a little shout out.
Okay.
Because
about the whole Time Lord Victorious thing.
Yeah. But I'm all about what the captain does.
Adelaide.
When
she goes back in the house.
Yeah. I think that is horrible. It's respectful.
Yeah.
You get a lot of respect for what she did. But God, that is horrible.
Yeah. So to actually explain that, obviously the whole thing with the waters of Mars is the Doctor knows that this crew are going to die eventually.
Yeah.
They die on this mission. He's had enough of people dying, so he is basically willing to change history, which he's always advised is not the right thing to do. But he's finally decided that he's the last of the Time Lords. Who's going to stop him? The Lords of Time are his. And he will do what he can to save them. He makes the rules now, essentially.
Yeah.
So he saves them. He takes them back to Earth. Everyone else is pretty chipper about it. But Adelaide, the captain, basically says, we were supposed to die there. You had no right to do that.
Because isn't it brought up about her granddaughter or something?
Yeah.
Like
she will have a lineage that will go off to become... obviously, Adelaide was supposed to die there, and her daughter or granddaughter or something was supposed to go off into the stars and become one of the humanity's first like settlers on another planet or something. Yeah. But she says you had no right to do that. The Doctor says tough.
Yeah.
So his ego's gotten a bit out of check, and she takes matters into her own hands. So she goes back into her flat, and she ends her own life in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very different moment from.
It's very
the flood.
different. Yeah, because I think that's more in a sense of, I think that's more scary from the Doctor's point of view, because it's kind of reassuring him his biggest fears of no matter how much you wish to control the world and not to lose people, the universe will take things into its own hands. Do you know what I mean?
Kind of similar to what we're talking about with water.
Yeah. And it's like
you can do what you want to try and keep it in check, but it will always find its way to where it wants to go.
And that's the thing. Do you mean he expected her to be grateful for saving her life?
Yeah.
And for, as he said, bending the will of time.
Yeah.
But the fact that she said, "Well, screw you, I'm going to set things right."
Yeah.
I think that is, again, quite horrifying and scary. The fact that it's like, well,
yeah, two very different
control.
moments from the same episode.
But I'd like to give that a little shout out because I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's good. Number 4, we have a moment from The Impossible Planet. Mm-hmm. It's "Don't turn around."
I don't think that's that scary.
I think it is. I think this is a really good moment. I think it's, again, similar to Listen. I think it's the fear of not being able to see what the threat is.
Yeah.
And I guess with the silence as well. It's kind of similar. Obviously, Toby is sat at his desk and he can hear this deep kind of menacing voice going, "Toby." And it's the fact, it's not just like it's something that doesn't want to be observed, it's teasing him. Because if it just didn't want to be observed, he would just say, "Don't turn around, that's it." But it's the fact that it's going, "I'm getting closer and closer. Oh,
Yeah.
I can almost touch you."
I don't know.
And there's that moment where he's obviously like bricking himself.
Yeah.
But then he goes to turn around. He's like, "Don't turn around and I will kill you." And it's that thing of like, I wouldn't know what I'd do in that situation.
I don't know. I don't find that scary.
That doesn't work for you?
No.
I find that quite freaky.
No.
I don't know. I think it's because Gabriel Wolf has got such a deep, sort of commanding voice. I said this when we actually covered the episode, but I don't find the Beast in his physical form to be that intimidating. He's way more scary as this entity that's just a voice. Even when like possessing the Ood, I think he's scarier because it's this thing, the fact that he just comes across so angry.
Yeah.
For seemingly no reason. But that's who the devil would be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I think with this moment with Toby, like I say, it's the fact that you can't see him. The camera kind of inches closer, so maybe it's like a POV shot, I'm not too sure, but it's the fact that it's teasing him, it's taunting him to turn around, and then berating him for trying to turn around.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it seems a bit corny.
Do you think?
Yeah. Because, I don't know, maybe I would be scared in the situation, but I just feel like it's like, he said, if you turn around, you'll die. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, cute. Like,
Right, okay. Wait to kill them. You guys.
it's like,
I was sort of like, "Hey, who turned on the lights?" Okay, cute. And just turn around and walk away.
no, but that's worse because, like, I don't know. Somebody threatening to kill me
Yeah.
doesn't seem that scary. Somebody threatening to kill me horribly does.
I understand that, but I guess the thing of you don't know how he's going to kill you, and B,
True.
it's the thing of not knowing, is this a joke? If not, it's like, why? Why are you going to kill me for just looking at you? If you don't want me to look at you, why do you keep taunting me?
I don't know.
And keep implying you're right behind me and you're close enough to touch me? I think that's what's scary about this moment, is the fact that he's taunting him to try and turn around and then berating him for doing it. And it's very much like the devil to play those kind of tricks on you.
Yeah, but
Doesn't work for you?
no. Like, the fact that, like the Vashta Narada, the fact that they eat you alive and then they puppeteer your dead body, that's horrible.
Yes.
This random man whispering me, I'm going to touch you and then I'm going to kill you. I'm like, okay. Like,
I don't think him touching him was the threat.
yeah, but he's like,
I'm going to touch you.
I'm going to touch you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't work as much for me. I want something a bit more like existential. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Like I said before, I'm easily scared, but I'm also very critical. Like, if I'm going to be scared, I want to be scared well.
Okay.
And if you try to scare me and you fail,
Well, you tell me if this next one's effective. Number 3, we have the empty child.
Yeah.
And we have Constantine turning into a gas mask zombie.
I remember seeing this as a child.
Yes.
Scared the shit out of me.
Right, okay.
Because it looks so painful.
It does, yeah.
And then literally he's like, the way he's saying, oh God, he's such a good actor. The way he's saying mummy as well, it's like it
I think it's
pains
because
him
when
to
he
say
talks, when Richard Wilson talks, he's very, he articulates very clearly.
Yeah.
Like he says like, physical injury as plague. Like he
Yeah.
talks very eloquently and you can understand every syllable. He's very clear.
Yeah.
And then it's during this moment where he's saying, "Are you my mummy?" But it's the, "Are you my mummy?" Like you can't even get his lips to touch to say the M in mummy because something is forcing its way up his throat.
That's the thing, you see the strain on his face as well. It's like, oh God, what's happening to
I'll give a
you?
shout out to that other actor later as well. I think we mentioned this when we covered the episode, but yeah, the guy that's when Nancy's chained up, the guy that's opposite him, opposite her, sorry. Yeah, he does a similar thing where he kind of screams when he goes, "Mummy!"
It's like, oh God.
It's this moment where, he's very calm and composed, and he's explaining what's happening to the doctor, and then we get that shot where he's holding his walking stick, and you can see the scar on the back of his hand.
Yeah.
But it's as soon as the transformation happens, like I say, his composure just seems to stop. He doesn't panic as such, but yeah, he's struggling to speak now. He's really forcing himself to get the words out, and then let's be honest, it's the transformation itself.
Yeah.
It's when you see his eyes grow to like 5 times their size and then blacken out and then they have like a silver ring come around them. It's when you see the, what do you call it? The bit of...
The ventilator.
The ventilator on the gas mask actually come up his throat and out of his mouth. And then obviously it kind of turns black. His skin starts to stain and it all like fuses together.
Yeah.
So it's like it's coming from within him and he's turning into it at the same time. And it's, just horrible.
It's horrible.
And it's the fact that once it happens, he doesn't like immediately get up and then start going to attack the doctor. He just kind of passes out.
You would do.
But it's the thing, you don't know whether, was it so painful that he's just passed out, or is it just the state because all the ones in the hospital beds were passed out at this point? Because when they all start getting up out of the bed, he gets up as well. But it's that thing of, he goes from super calm and composed to this excruciating looking moment to then just asleep, unconscious, whatever you want to call it. I know this moment scarred a lot of people. I imagine if I went to most people who don't still watch the show today, but maybe watched it when they were younger, and I asked them for one moment, it's probably this one.
Yeah. I'd probably say the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what comes. There's one that is my number one.
I bet I know what it is. And
Slash no.
if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's not on the list.
If it's not on the list, I'm going to be completely shocked.
Yeah.
Because that moment scarred me and we will have to discuss it.
So, number 2 is from Blink.
Yeah.
We have the moment after the whole Sally and the Doctor talking via the Easter egg DVD thing, when the angel finally starts to attack. So do you remember when Sally runs down, she's trying to look and the door's locked and Larry's backed up against the wall and there's that angel and he looks back at her and then when he looks back it's like inching forward bit by bit and it's got its teeth out and it's got its hand outstretched and it's just getting close to him. And there's that moment where you can see he really wants to blink so badly and it's like a foot from his face.
Yeah.
That moment. How are you feeling about that?
Again, horrible in the moment. Horrible. Again, well done. But I think when you compare it to some of the other stuff.
I was going to say, this is less existential.
Yeah.
So this isn't about like, the duality of man and what humanity has done to itself. This is a monster.
Yeah, but then you look at what we just, with Empty Child.
Yeah.
It's more what could happen to him than...
Well, that's the thing,
what
isn't
does
it?
happen
It's
to
interesting that in reality, what the Weeping Angels do to you isn't that bad.
No.
Like, it's like, obviously, it would be inconvenient, but like...
Well, I mean, I think it'd be more than inconvenient. But
I know, but there's a difference between being sent back 40 years to the past.
Yeah.
Or 80 years to the past, or however far back you go, and, like, poor Bob having your neck broken. Do you know what I mean? There's, like...
But even then, I think... Because you even with Bob, do you mean it's a quick death?
I know,
Do you
but
mean?
that's what I mean. Even
think
without
that's-
thinking of what would happen to you if you were in that situation, you're sat down watching an episode of television. You're not going to be as scared for this character if the biggest risk is them, especially in a time travel show. If the biggest risk to them is being sent into the past,
Yeah.
as it would be if it's like the Vashtanarada, eating your skin off. Do you know what I mean? But it's something impressive about this that even though the fate that he would suffer in the worst case scenario is not that bad, you still are scared in the moment.
I think it's because it's the whole thing of taking something that's so normal and so human. The fact that these things literally everywhere, these statues are everywhere, you don't know whether they are one. And also the thing that's so natural, that is blinking.
Yeah.
So it's the two things of like, you have to blink. And to not blink is so hard. But also the fact that they could be anywhere and you can't stop them. It's a horrible thing that would happen. It's not the worst thing, but it's the lack of control and the kind of like the thing of like they can't be stopped.
Yeah. Well, what I think makes the Weeping Angel scary, especially in Blink, which they kind of ruined in Flesh and Stone, is that you don't see them move. Obviously,
I agree.
They move, but in Flesh and Stone, you actually see that one kind of move its head, don't you?
Yeah.
And I know you can justify that by saying it wasn't at full power and whatever, but like the angels in Blink, they move in stop motion.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Which is already a bit like you
it's
see...
a bit janky, it's a bit clunky,
Yeah.
and that's kind of uncanny in a way that feels unnatural, I think.
I know this is going to sound really random, but... You know, was it that Jason and the Argonauts?
With the skeletons?
Yeah, the one you showed me where they
they increase the frame rate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that takes for me, I said, well, it's not as effective.
I agree. No, yes. So for anyone listening, I assume you've seen Jason and the Argonauts. If not, there's a moment where these skeletons come up and there's like a big sword fight.
Yeah.
And there's a video on YouTube where someone has taken that clip and increased the frame rate.
Yeah.
Because the skeletons were done through stop motion. Not just the skeletons, but it was the big statue coming to life as
Yeah.
well. It would have been, obviously the film's in 24 frames per second. I'm not sure what frame rate it was stop motioned at, but probably less than that.
Yeah.
But someone smoothed it out to be like 60 frames per second or something like that. And it is objectively smoother, but also I feel like less effective because like when the big statue is moving its head and it's at like a low frame rate, it looks stiff. It looks like a big metal object trying to move its head.
Yeah.
Where when you're watching it in 60 frames per second, it's too smooth. It looks smoother, but it's less scary. It looks too grounded.
Polished, yeah.
I don't know.
It looks too human.
It takes something away.
I agree.
And I think that's what makes the angels effective here. Obviously, when they go down to the basement, there's that moment where the lights are flashing on and off. And obviously, they move when the lights are off. So, because you only see them when the lights are on, you see them going, bah, 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 bah. And they're kind of moving arms up and down. Yeah, and that makes them scary. And I think that's, again, this moment where Larry's backed against the wall. He's not actually blinking. He keeps looking around to check on Sally to see where she's going.
But he's not looking at them.
Yeah, and every time he looks back and then quickly snaps his head back like a second later, and it's traveled like 10 feet in the span of less than a second. It's that thing of how fast they are is obscene.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how they haven't already dominated like half that. Like, I know it's established in Blink that they're like scavengers and they're not at full power or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes you wonder like if these guys at full power could have done some damage. Do you know what I mean?
I guess it's that kind of thing of like they can't what's it called? Them as far as I'm aware, themselves they can't travel through time. And they also, as far as I'm aware, can't like reproduce.
Well, in Angels Take Manhattan, we see little cupids, don't we?
We do, but I'm assuming
cherubs.
that's not like them reproducing.
I have no idea.
Who knows? Who knows how they work?
If a weeping angel touches another weeping angel, would that weeping angel get displaced?
Maybe.
Don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. What do you think of this moment specifically with Larry?
I think it's good.
I think the music from Murray Gold helps a lot as well.
Yeah.
Because the Weeping Angels have this theme where it's got this kind of like, I think it was done through like a wheel. A wheel squeaking on something, but it's kind of good like, and it's like, if it was like a normal score, it would be done through like strings doing the psycho thing. Do you know what I mean? The dun, 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 but it's like a wheel like creaking on something, and it sounds so like unpleasant. And it's not at a consistent enough rhythm to even be comforting.
Yeah.
It's very unsettling because you can't predict like the rhythm of the wheel. It's weird, but yeah, I don't think this moment is as scary as, say, like Pain or even the bit from the Satan pit, if I'm honest. But I think it's effective.
I do think it's effective, but I think when we've spoken about the others that we've spoken about, I don't think it's quite as horrifying.
Yeah,
But it's still good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what the most suggested moment was?
If this isn't the one I'm thinking of,
I don't think it will be.
then I'm completely and utterly surprised.
This is from Midnight.
Yeah, no, it's not the one.
This
I'm thinking
is
of.
the moment where Sky speaks first.
I mean, that is creepy, but I don't think it's horrifying.
Well, what I put was scariest moments.
Yeah.
That was what I asked for. So, for context, Midnight, there's an entity that possesses a lady named Sky, and in the beginning, she just starts repeating what everybody's saying. So someone will say something, she'll repeat it back to them. It eventually evolves to the point where they start speaking in unison, and they're speaking at exactly the same time, and it seems to be impossible. And then there's a moment where the doctor's talking to her, and they're talking at the same time, but she finishes the sentence first.
Yeah.
And at this point, we realise that she's ahead of him. What do you think of that moment?
Again, I think it's brilliant.
Do you find that scary?
A less scary, more brilliant.
Okay.
I think it's... I don't know. It's really good.
I find this bit really unsettling.
Unsettling, yes. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's... I think what makes Midnight work as an episode is that I think I've said this to you before, like off the podcast, but it uses the Doctor's greatest strength, which is his words against him, particularly the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 10th Doctor's first episode in the Christmas Invasion, when he's kind of figuring himself out, he says, I know I've got a gob, I can tell you that much. Like, he knows he's a talker. He doesn't shut up. So I feel like this, if you imagine Midnight, but he was like the 9th Doctor, I don't know if it would have played out the same way.
I think it would have with Capaldi.
Maybe, because Capaldi talks a lot as well, but I think why the 10th Doctor was the perfect victim for this, not only because he talks a lot, but he wants people to like him.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
So the whole thing with this is he's got a carriage full of agitated humans with him, and they're all suspicious of each other, they're all argumentative, and he's trying his best to not only keep on top of the situation, but also keep them on side. But he's so arrogant that he has those moments where they say, like, why should we trust you? And he just says, because I'm clever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has moments like that. He is the perfect victim for this entity.
I agree. And I think, again, the scariest thing about this episode for me isn't the fact that the creature speaks before him, it's the fact that the humans then think it's moved to him.
Well, exactly. I think that's the thing.
The
fact that Sky speaks first that's the thing, isn't it? It's not only of, oh, that's the next evolution, so this creature has evolved yet again, but it's now people will assume that it's in the Doctor now. And we know the Doctor's going to be the only one who can take care of this situation.
Yeah.
And now with everyone in the cabin against him, and he can't even get up and move because he's locked down on his knees now.
Yeah.
We're done for. And even then, by the end of the episode, the Doctor isn't the one to resolve it.
Yeah.
He, like I say, he was the perfect victim for this. He was never going to make it. If that, what do you call her?
The stewardess. The woman.
Yeah. If she hadn't done what she'd done, Doctor Who would be over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I know what you mean, like 12, Capaldi's Doctor has got a bit of a gob on him, he can talk, but like I say, he's quite antisocial.
Yeah, I agree.
Where, the 10th Doctor cares so much about what people think of him, and he wants to get everyone on side, and he wants to be seen as one of them.
I think
while at the same time having the superiority complex.
He wants to be seen as the hero. He wants to be seen as like the person who's in charge, who's gonna, resolve this.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like 12 would kind of like sit back and kind of be like, wait for people to do it, and then if they haven't done it right, then he's like, fine, I'll do something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I find interesting about this. Like I say, it's the fact that the entity is scary in and of itself. Like, what's her name? The plays Sky.
I can't remember.
I can't remember her name, but she's really good in this.
She is,
and she's got this such unnerving. Like when she looks around and she's kind of staring, she's got these like really beady eyes, and she's really good in this. But it's what makes the entity scary isn't just what it can do. Like physically, it's the fact that it turns people against each other. Do you know what I mean? People that were once getting on are now arguing with each other. The professor is arguing with his student. Do you know what I mean? They were like best friends in the beginning, but now he's telling you to shut up. You don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The mother and father are arguing with each other with the son, and no one can seem to. No one's on the same page, and the entity is loving this. You can tell because when everyone's arguing, Sky's just there, just smiling and just loving it. And just that whole moment, I think that tension is amped up to the very max when she starts to speak first.
Yeah, because I guess it's kind of that thing in the sense of he always had. She always seemed like she was lacking. She was always one step behind.
Yes.
And he always had the upper hand.
Yeah.
So when she takes that from him, she takes the power.
Even when they start speaking simultaneously, you still get the feeling that he's in charge.
Yeah.
Even though she's clearly caught up, you get the impression that the Doctor is still in control of this moment.
Yeah.
Where, as soon as she starts to speak first, it's over.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why... I don't know if I'd call it the scariest moment in Doctor Who, but I think this absolutely deserves a place in the top 3.
Really?
I think so. For me, yeah. I assume not for you?
No.
No? Okay, so, that's the list. That's the top 20 list that I got from our fellow Whovians over on Reddit. Mm-hmm. Do you want to maybe run through any kind of... additional ones that come to your mind? I've got a couple down myself.
Well, do you want to... There's one that I think is going to be the one for me.
Yeah. Shall I say it and see if I'm right?
I'm trying to think if I can think of any others that like stand out massively to me. Other than jumping straight to that. Because that's the blaring one in my brain.
I'll tell you what, I think I know what your one is. Okay. So let me run through a couple other ones.
Yeah.
I'll run through 4 because I wrote down 5 here.
Okay.
And I think what I've got number 5 will be your one.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 1, and I know you're not going to agree with me here, but I have a moment from Love and Monsters.
Yeah.
And I have the moment where the Absorbaloff touches Ursula.
Yeah.
And it's not the actual fact that Ursula's been touched by the Absorbaloff. It's the fact that he relishes in it and he says just one touch, that's all it takes, and he's so like gloating about it, but so like you can tell he loves this.
Yeah.
I don't know if he loves it because absorbing maybe feels good for him, or whether it's the fact that he knows he's robbing Elton of something.
Yeah.
But he's loving this moment. And as a kid, obviously, Love and Monsters is not a scary episode, but even as a kid, that moment where in his thick, like, northern accent with a weird, like, reverby delayed effect on it, he goes, just one touch, that's all it takes. I just remember finding that very unpleasant as a child. And that stuck with me as the scariest moment in that episode. I'm sure there aren't many people that will be on my side with that, but that's a very personal one for me that I found quite unpleasant.
I've got one. Okay. Which I'm wondering if you'll have on your list.
Yeah.
It's from Dalek.
Oh, I don't have one from Dalek. Okay.
And this is mainly from childhood.
Okay.
Again, I didn't see much of the episode, but I remember...
Oh, I remember you saying when we recorded, yeah.
I remember when the Dalek comes out into the corridor where all the guards are,
yeah,
and they're shooting at it, and the I was petrified by the kind of like X-ray effect
Yeah.
on the humans when they've been exterminated.
Yes.
For me, that was like horrifying as a child. And again, hence why I didn't watch it until I was much older.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like got into it myself.
Is it just that then? Just the X-ray effect?
I think it was
I thought you were going to talk about, because I remember when we covered the episode, you mentioned specifically the moment where
the banisters.
it levitates, it turns the sprinklers on,
Yeah.
and then it fires at the floor. I thought you were going to say that.
I mean, also that is also
'Cause
horrible.
I know we talked about this during the episode, but that's one of those things where the Daleks themselves, I don't find that scary, but that's a clear example of how efficient a Dalek can be at killing when it wants to be.
Yes.
And the fact that it does it so casually, it's not threatened by these people. But so it takes its time. It just stands there and takes the bullets for a bit, and then looks around, and then just aims the gun up, fires at the sprinkler. Everyone's getting wet. They keep shooting at it, and then it just fires the railing, and just wipes them all out in one shot. It's like a game.
Yeah, and do you know what?
It's like when I'm playing a game and I'm like, I see a bunch of enemies like standing by like a red barrel.
Yeah,
I'm
you're like,
oh man, what a great place to throw a grenade.
Yeah. I think this is another example of what I mentioned earlier of, again, we mentioned it in the episode of Dalek, but having me be completely, not petrified, but kind of like, oh God, what a horrible thing. And then at the end feeling sorry for it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as Arachnids in the UK.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe. I think the Daleks are done so well there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, if we're on about personally, it doesn't affect me anymore. But as a child, I know this is going to sound really weird because I'm, again, little thing, but I'm not affected by medical gore. Doesn't bother me at all.
Yes.
But it's something about the human skeleton weirds me out.
Right.
I don't like it. We've mentioned this about, like, I feel uncomfortable about some movie posters which will have a skull with eyeballs in it.
Yes.
I really don't like it. I don't know whether it's kind of from, because
the Master does that, doesn't he, in End of Time Part 2, when he goes into like Skeletor mode.
Yeah. I know we had like watching, what's it called? Is it Raiders? Where he melts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I watched that as a young child, and that freaked me the hell out.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe plays a part as well. But yeah, so actually seeing the skeleton in the body, maybe that freaked me out as a child a lot.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Do you think the negative effect plays a part into it as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the negative effect of like the human outline, but then seeing the skeleton in there.
Yeah.
Creepy. I mean, it's still creepy today, but it's not the same effect as it had.
No. I mean, like, my moment, like I just said, with Love and Monsters, I still find kind of effective now, but that was something that stuck with me as a child. Yeah. Another one that stuck with me as a child was from, I think it was The Sound of Drums, where the Master ages the Doctor with the laser screwdriver.
Yeah.
Not when he turns him into Dobby, but when he turns him into just like an old man.
Yeah.
And it's that moment where the effect of the Doctor getting older is horrible, because it's David Tennant just like flailing around, but they speed up the footage by like 100 times, and he's going so fast, and he looks so in pain that it's just really hard to watch. But then it's the fact that the Master's like twisting the screwdriver. He's not just pointing it, but he's turning it, and it's as if, like, you know when people say like if you stab someone and then you like kind of twist the knife at the same time.
Yeah, it's
kind of like that, and he's doing that, and he's going older and older, and that moment really stuck with me. Again, I don't find The Sound of Drums to be a scary episode, but that's a moment that really stuck with me as a kid. That I found being like, this is horrible. Like, that really upsets me.
Yeah.
And then seeing, like I think when he goes into the weird kind of like, as you call them, like the little Tweety Pie form.
He looks like Tweety Pie.
It loses it a bit, but it's after this moment of watching him screaming, going, ah! And he's like waving his arms around, like sped up. And then you just see him all old and wrinkly and just powerless. And like I say, the Master just loving it. I think that's something that sticks with me. It's not just watching something bad happen, but when the person causing the damage is just relishing it.
Yeah.
That's something that sticks with me, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wrote down another two. One of them I'm not going to go into detail with. One I wrote down is While Blue Yonder. and I'm not gonna go into detail because Charlotte hasn't seen this one yet, believe it or not. But all I'm gonna say for anyone listening is my arms are too long. I'll leave it there. Okay. And the last one I'll say before I get to the one I think you've got is the angel scene from the Halloween Apocalypse in Flux.
Oh yeah.
I don't find it a super scary thing, but I saw this as a return to form for the angels.
Yeah.
Because the angels stopped being scary after Blink. So
fair.
this is the first time since 2007 where I was like, this is quite creepy. And it's obviously the scene where, was it Claire? Was that her name?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I can't remember if Claire was the woman that I'm thinking of or if Claire was the woman that Dan was going out with. I can't remember. But this woman, and she sees an angel at the end of the street. And typical angel thing happens where she's blinking, looks away, and it's getting closer and closer. And she's trying to get to her front door, and she's trying to put her keys in the door without breaking eye contact with the angel. And there's not really much to say about it. It's scary for the same reason Blink is scary.
Yeah.
But I just saw this as a noteworthy kind of like return to form.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the moments that I have here that I reckon is your one.
Shall I mention it?
Yeah, go on.
Don't cremate
That's
me.
what I have, yes.
My God.
Dark water, don't cremate me.
My God. So, just again, a little bit of history on this. So, I had stopped watching Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I think I'd seen 1 or 2 episodes. And me and my mum had sat down just by random on a Saturday evening, and this episode was on. Now, I've always hated the idea of cremation.
Yeah.
It's always been something that's horrified me. I don't know why. I just think, for me, it was always something that was just so wrong about burning something, like burning a body.
Yeah. Because it goes one of two ways. Because some people see fire and burning as a sign of like purification.
Yeah.
And other people see it as just absolute destruction.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on
But
how you subconsciously see it.
I know this is going to sound quite dark, but I remember as a child, not a really young child, but having the conversation with my dad about it.
Right.
And he was saying about that when he got older, he wanted to be cremated.
I think most people of our parents' age did.
Yeah. And I remember having a conversation with him and saying, well, please don't have that because it's burning. And he said, well, I won't be here anymore. It'll just be my body. It's just my choices. It won't affect me.
Yeah.
It's just, and then he explained it as it's another way of, spreading my ashes to be with the world.
Yeah. And then you watch this one.
And as a child, I accepted that to be, even though it's a kind of thing like after death, whether you could feel anything, that was fine.
Yeah.
So then me and my mum watched this episode, and oh my God, literally the
you
two
would have
of
been
us.
relatively old as well, because I think this was Capaldi's first series, so this would be like 2014, so you'd have been about 15.
Yeah. However, I will say, I had recently lost a loved one,
Right.
and they had chosen cremation.
Oh.
So both me and my mother, and it was on my mother's side of the family. So both me and my mother were sitting in the living room watching this completely scarred. Like the two of us just sitting there, like almost in tears, just about horrified by this. And it's so brilliant, but my God.
We probably should specify what the moment is.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone knows, but
I mean, you can probably tell
since we've specified everything else.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the whole thing of Dark Water and Death in Heaven is the nether sphere, where people's consciousnesses are stored in like a digital form. But from their perspective, it's like they've gone to like heaven or an afterlife or something.
Yeah.
And the twist is that they still think they can feel their body after they die.
Yeah.
So everything, even though they've died and their consciousness has gone somewhere else, they can still feel what's happening to their body. And that's why everyone is screaming, don't cremate me.
Because they're hoping that people in the real world will hear this and choose not to.
Yeah. Horrible moments.
Again,
I'm so surprised that of all 20 things in that list, this did not make it.
I'm completely shocked. People must have forgotten this because, again, this is if you would ask me at any random point, even before we had thought about this, scariest moment in Doctor Who, this without a doubt would have been my answer.
Number one?
Well, number one by far. Second one, probably Pain.
Yeah.
Probably Pain.
Just the Capaldi stories are getting you.
Again, yeah. And again, I love this series so much, and I love him so much.
It's mad that this didn't make the list, but like, the moment from Sleep No More did.
Yeah, or the moment with Amy and turning into a doll.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Again, I think it's got to be people don't remember this, or maybe those who did weren't on the Reddit at the time.
Maybe. Yeah. But again, what I think, to summarize this whole episode, I think it's really interesting what some people find scary over others. Like, say there are things that you find scary that I don't, and vice versa. I assume you did not feel any effect whatsoever about that bit in Love and Monsters, where
really.
I was clearly far more affected by that moment in Midnight than you were. So it's interesting that the other way around was arachnids in the UK.
Yeah.
Obviously that was way more effective for you. Granted, arachnophobia plays a part, but I find myself far less affected by the presence of a big scary monster and more by the effect it has. And I guess it is the same thing for you, but it's different in the sense of I feel like you're more empathetic than I am. So for you, it's more about you get upset by people suffering.
Yeah, that's for me.
For me, it's actually kind of it's the same, but also the opposite. You get triggered by people suffering, where I get triggered by the attacker's glee.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You
feel sad for the person for experiencing what they're experiencing, where I hate the person causing the pain. Because they seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, that's fair. Because do you mean there's lots of evil people in the world, but I think it's horrible because people, whether they'll be an evil person or not, there'll always be cases where people will be suffering like that.
Yeah.
So I hate it. But one thing which I always enjoy having these conversations, but I've enjoyed this conversation because I think it's kind of given me an idea of why I like Moffat so much.
Right.
I didn't think I liked horror. But
you do when it's written by Stephen Moffat.
But maybe I do. Because, the majority, I would say, of the biggest horror moments in the series were written by Moffat.
If I get the list back up.
So
written by Stephen Moffat, we have Heaven Sent, Flesh and Stone, Girl in the Fireplace, Impossible Astronaut, World Enough in Time, Silence in the Library, Listen, The Empty Child, and Blink.
Yeah.
I didn't count.
Death. Well, it's not on
Death
there.
in Heaven wasn't in the list, but obviously that was yours, yeah. I didn't count, but I assume that was probably half the list of Stephen Moffat stories. So he's good at that. And it's funny because that's kind of what he was known for when he first started writing in Russell's era, was he was the scary guy.
Yeah.
He wrote the scary episode. Girl in the Fireplace was the outlier.
Yeah.
And even that had a scary moment.
Yeah.
But like in comparison to Silence in the Library, Blink, and The Empty Child.
Yeah.
Obviously, Girl in the Fireplace was much more of like a romantic story. And it kind of dialed down a bit when he became showrunner. I feel like Matt Smith's era kind of dabbled away from that, and then it came back a little bit during Capaldi's run.
Yeah. But again, I think that's why I like Capaldi's run so much.
Yeah.
Because often the critique I have with Monsters of the Week is that they're not effective enough. They don't give me the fear factor that I want.
Yeah.
I want to feel scared from these monsters because they're supposed to be monsters.
I know what you mean. And that was, maybe that's a big critique of the Chibnall era as well, not to be another person who just dogs on Chris Chibnall for no reason, but like, do you know what I mean? Was I affected by the Stenza from The Woman Who Fell to Earth? No. Was I affected by the Pating or the weird like assassins from Demons of the Punjab, or the Solitract from It Takes You Away, or the space racist in Rosa?
I definitely think he's had some really good ones. Again, the Arachnids in the UK, I think the storyline around that is not like.
But that's not from a writing thing. That's because that's the spiders that were created by the CGI department. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
but I think the whole idea of it is brilliant. And I also think, I can't remember what the episode, the girl who's, I think she's blind.
Yeah, I said Takes You Away. It's a Solitract.
the things that you've got to walk through and they come for you.
Oh, oh, yeah. I forgot about that subplot. I was thinking of the big frog.
Oh, no, I want about like the...
Oh, yeah, the weird, like, netherrealm thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's scary. I think he definitely does it, and he does it well, but I think it's not as... I think, again, we've spoken about this. Chibnall does fear factor well, but he's got to go fully in. Like, when he completely
I guess this leans the
thinks,
conversation back into... He's really good in Torchwood.
Exactly. And I think that's where his strengths are.
Yeah.
But obviously... there's only so dark you can make Doctor Who.
Well, I say, to kind of wrap this thing up, and just leading off of that, I will say, if you like Doctor Who at its scariest, watch Torchwood.
Yeah.
Torchwood's not, to be honest, not often scary, but there's a lot of those moments that are dark and sit with you and psychologically scary as opposed to like jumpy scary.
Yeah. But if you
standout moments, I think of Adrift. I think of a lot of the stuff from series 4.
I mean,
with Jack's past. Also, there's a moment in Children of Earth, which, granted, that was Children of Earth is Russell, not Chibnall, but you know, you get the point. There's a lot of moments in Torchwood that kind of do that. So if you like Doctor Who and you've been meaning to give Torchwood a go, I think I said this in one of the other episodes. Yeah. I was like, definitely do it.
Yeah,
they're not all like hits. There are some misses in there, particularly towards the start. But I would say give it a chance. Yeah. It's good. Like I say, what I find really interesting about this whole thing is, you know, seeing what different people are scared of and how everyone is scared of different things. Some people have similarities. Do you know what I mean? Arachnophobia is probably one of the most common fears in the world. Lots of people are scared of spiders, but then there are some people that breed them as pets. Do you know what I mean? And they love them. I just find that really, really interesting. Before
we fully wrap up, I would like to put one little mention in here.
Okay.
Which... I don't think it was necessarily scary for me, but I think it was definitely effective. 73 yards.
Okay.
I think that definitely needs a mention.
Yeah.
Because if we're on about scary or creepy, that's definitely up there. I know towards the end she sees it more as a companion.
Yeah, she comes to terms with it and she finds it more of a comfort. But yeah, in that initial first 20 minutes, half hour.
Like the scene where the guy's like laughing, speaks to the woman, then runs away. And it's the scene with her mother does that.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
Yeah.
So that needs to be mentioned.
It's also that moment where obviously because the entity is always 73 yards away. I love that like cinematography moment where she's on the train and she looks out the window and she sees the entity in a field and then they like go past a tree and then she's in the next field. I'm like, that's so...
Yeah. Oh, and when... Unit as well when Kate speaks to it and runs away.
Yeah, that's the moment I feel like when you're like, because even though the bit with Ruby's mum is horrible, I kind of saw it coming.
Yeah,
when it happened with Kate, that's when I was like, oh
yeah, she's
alone. Yeah, like Doctor's gone
and the only people who really would be able to solve this or understand this aren't getting involved. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah,
good shout, Jim. Sorry, I wish I'd thought of that. But
so I think that definitely needs to go in there as well.
Yeah. But yeah, do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
No?
Just let us know if we missed anything. Let us know
if you think of anything else that we haven't talked about, then...
Because I'm sure there's
going to be loads.
Yeah.
There's probably loads I haven't even thought of. Put them down in the comments.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts about anything we've said, or you fundamentally disagree with anything, put it down in the comments. Let us know.
Do you love spiders? Tell us why.
Yeah, be a part of the conversation. We always like to read the comments and stuff. So do that. But thank you all very much for listening. We appreciate you. You can check us out over on YouTube Music, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever you are. If you want to leave a comment, you'll have to do that either on Spotify or on YouTube because the other platforms do not allow it, unfortunately.
And we don't have any social media. Sorry.
No, we don't have social media because what's the point?
Yeah, and I don't do social media. So.
Yeah. But thank you all very much for listening. We appreciate you as always. I guess we'll see you in the next episode. We're not really sure when this is going live because we're recording this a bit in advance. So I can't tell you what the next episode's going to be, but I'm sure you'll know if you hit that subscribe button. So go do that. But thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.